So this one is the second Q&A video in which basically I just go through the Q&A. So basically a series of questions. So let's start from this one. That is the economic system of the internet. What kind of challenges come with that? So if you remember, even in the video that I have shared previously in the channel, the main question is the decentralization of the internet. What does it mean? We have seen the development of network topologies basically, and how much they started from a centralized view, so a star system, that then as it became a long distance network and then start to have much more nodes connected between each other, then it passed through a bus network topology in which there is in which all the different machines or the different terminals are intertwined between each other, but through just one line, one network. And then we've seen how much in multiplexing there was the possibility of having different conversation on the same line, so having a different connection on the same line. Let's remember that in this moment there was still no invention of the mesh topology nor of wireless connection. In this moment we are talking about a wire that connects different devices. Then the evolution of technology basically led to the mesh topology. This means having different devices connected wirelessly, so without a wire, and which can basically share between each other the content they would like. Of course, this content and the data are shared through packages in this model. Basically, the evolution happened first through multiplexing that allowed the long distance topology, and then from there, basically through the bus topology, tree topology, string topology, and then the mesh topology to the evolution of data packages, basically. So of data that were no more a unique set of information passed from A to B, but a series of smaller set of information passed in this way in a more proficient and faster way. Now, the condition of internet right now, as is developing from the mesh network topology, means basically have a decentralized system. As we have seen, we have passed from a star topology to a mesh topology in which there was a decentralization. And hence, from the decentralization, two main challenges came. One is the conflicting incentives, and the other one is the versus resource allocation. The first one means that being decentralized, all the actors that are in the mesh topology, that hence are in the network, could actually have incentives that conflict with the common good. Let's make an example. An example could be a peer-to-peer platform like VoosTorrent or eMule that exists back in the day. And basically there could be a lot of users, but for example 80% of them is free riding. Free riding means that basically they're not giving anything to anyone, they are just acquiring the data they need. And in eMule, for example, this means that basically you are downloading without uploading anything. This basically means that you are just a close-ended consumer, and you don't have an active role in the development of the network itself, because the network needs even someone to upload. The free riding dogma, the free riding principle is basically, in a nutshell, the main issue with conflicting incentives, because the system would like anyone to upload, but the users by themselves would prefer not to do that, because it's gonna allocate resources for something they will not potentially need because they already have it. Then always regarding the resources, you have a diverse resource allocation. This means that being decentralized, because there is there is not a unique central and focal point that organizes the whole of the resource allocation. You will eventually find out that some users have more and some other have less. This means that basically some areas of the network have more and some areas of the network have less. For example, let's take the example of we've talked about the long distance network basically that developed from the star networks. The system is still in place, no more as a star but as a mesh network topology, and you would have different tiers, so tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 1 for example are intercontinental, interregional, and hence they are much more worldwide based, and they have no fee costs related to the transmitting of data from one region or one continent to another, while tier 2 and tier 3 they face higher costs due to that. So basically if different DNS, if different domain name system, or if different regional system basically would if there are different regional system, this means there will be even different allocation of resources based on how much people are into such system. Now let's go to question 2. How does the regulatory environment of networking technology address privacy and security concerns on the internet, and what role do the metaphorical knobs play in influencing influencing the interface between society and technology, particularly within the context of the sharing economy? Okay, let's return to the question as we mentioned before. So, as we mentioned before, the mesh topology and how much there are local and global networks. Now, being local and broad and global networks, which are based on the users and hence on at the end user interaction. This means having something that goes into the network. We talk about uploading data. Now, much of the digital platform basically acquire data from the users, and hence privacy concerns start to rise. This means the protection of the data of the users itself and therefore of their own personal data, how it is stored, processed, and how it is shared by the various entities on the internet. The second concern is instead much more technical and is related to the security concerns. This means that the main issue could be regarding DDoS attack, for example, when there is a lot of people inside the line, or spamming as well as cyber threat and so on. Basically anything that could basically ruin the user experience through cyber assault to the line, so the DDoS attack, which has of course an economic relevance, and then spamming itself. That's anything that basically is going to ruin the user experience just because it's going to attack the technology itself, or use the technology to harm the utilization of the network itself. As a network technology, we have a series of possible technology that came from hardware device, for example, routing, switch, computers, servers, and they go to a much more abstract concept, such as protocols, for example, the TCP/IP, that is the transmit protocol, that is the one based on packages. Now, an important concept in order to assess these two main problems that are from one, the privacy concern, the security concern, are the knobs. The knobs are actually very important because are kind of in the middle, doors in the middle between society and technology, and they aim to regulate the interaction between the two. Of course, this could be technological features that a particular application, a particular network is enabling in order to prevent privacy or security concerns, or on the other side could be general regulation that are made on the state-based networks, on the state of reference. So this is the role of knobs, but the other important concept of the question is the one of sharing economies. As we know, sharing economies, as I explained even in my previous video, is the sharing of unutilized or particular resources or services through a community that basically is doing that peer-to-peer and is utilizing online services, online platforms in order to do that. So you see how much the privacy and security concern rises much more when it's related to digital, with the digital and especially the sharing economy. And hence, that's why the role of knobs had become pivotal, not only on a state level, on a regulatory level, but even as an inside job of the platform itself. So let's go to the next question. That is question number 3. We got 600 of them, so let's ready for that. Name some fundamental economic principle within the context of network technology. Okay, so when we talk about the economic principles that are related to the context of networking technology, basically we need to start from the technology itself. So we have already explained how much the technology could be based on a mesh network topology and on hardware as well as servers, computer hardware, switch routing and so on, as well as protocol as the TCP/IP. Now, those will be considered in the sharing economy as the shared assets. Why? Because as we said before, by the definition, the sharing economy is the sharing of assets and of unutilized or of services through online platforms. Now, even before the sharing of the services or the assets that any of the peers, any of the users that is inside the network had actually on his end, what is shared between all of them, what all of them had, and hence they wouldn't request for more, is the technological infrastructure, that is the network itself, the platform itself, and could be cloud computing, could be storage, archiving, could be, as we say, servers, could be anything basically. And this means even having a set of technologies that are the background for which the user is able to interact with another user. Now, from there, a series of new realities basically emerged with the sharing economies. The first one is the network effect. So the network effect, as we have seen even in the previous video that I upload on this matter on this channel, basically talks about is referred to by 3 main economists. One is Smirnov effect, for those who mistake the name, which have the equation V equal N. This means much more bigger is the network, much more bigger is the inherent value of such a network. The second one is LaCalve's algorithm, which say instead of V equal 1, say V equal N square, which means not only you will see that your network is inherently valuable as long as it's big enough, but that even its value is gonna increase incrementally as long as people are joining it. What does it mean? That if in the beginning 2 people or 3 people will join my network, on the long run it's gonna be an higher value. So 3 people, then 4, then that 3 people would make join basically 6 people. You see how much how it's gonna work basically, right? And then this will lead to the third one that is instead the I don't remember the name, but is a third algorithm, which instead is V equal 2N. What does it mean? That there is always as networks are many times decentralized, the network effect itself is going to be decentralized itself. This means that some area will be way more developed than other. Okay, So hence why QN. Okay, then other two important composition are of this kind of network technology is the bidding process. The bidding auctioning or the auctioning process is basically the one for which um, add add space inside the network is sell to the best bidder. What does it mean? That there is a ad space which is sold to the best bidder in order to achieve more users. So you see how much the largeness of your own network is important, because larger is the network, higher will be the bid. Finally, we'll have the strategic behavior that we see in many actors inside and outside the network. That means basically moving inside the network itself, foreseeing possible future scenarios. And this one is related to business decision, but even to fundamental decision inside the operating system of the network itself. So we talk about everything basically, what is mentioned at least, and we go to the question 4. So the different types of network explained, generally emphasize on the adaptability and versatility of networks, particularly regarding their bidirectional or unidirectional nature based on service requirements. So let's continue. So we have, as we say, question 4. So the different types of network and that are born from their own topology. So the first general type of network that was around was actually the star network. This one is the first invented because it doesn't take a genius to understand how much this was connected to basically the telecom industry and to the phone industry. This one was the one as Graham Bell, and if you are Italian, Antonio Meucci, invented it, basically. So the idea that I have a phone, my girlfriend has a phone, I call her and she can call me back. But, you see that this is a problem. Why? Because this works as the walkie-talkie. So basically we have one line and one connection between each other. But what happens if I want to call my father? He needs another walkie-talkie with another band, with another thing, with another bandwidth, and hence, here's the issue. So what is the idea of Meucci and Graham Bell? Much more of Graham Bell is, let's take one operator that when you call him is gonna give you back a bandwidth. So everybody connects with the main center, the operator, that then is gonna redirect the whole traffic to someone else, to the one which is requested. So that's why in the films from the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, you're gonna see someone take the phone, call, talking to someone that is from the company operator and say, yeah, I'd like to call this person. Okay, just let me check. They check the number and they connect the bandwidth. And if you remember, you have seen probably in some movies, you have literally the connection that happens through wire. So this one is the star topology, in which there is a central operator that is gonna manage all the bandwidth, and that then is gonna redirect you where you would like to go. Now, this one is a pretty old view of our network should work, and that's the main problem, that originally it was just a one-way bandwidth thing. So basically, what does it mean? That it was you can just do one big hop between you and the other person on the other line. There couldn't be other conversation on the same line. There couldn't be other passage of data in such line. Now, this one is a great issue, of course, because this means that your network could not expand so much. But as we said previously, the great invention was the multiplexing, the statistical multiplexing. What does it mean? That multiplexing means that I could put more bandwidth inside that particular connection, inside that particular line, that wire that is gonna connect point A with point B. This means that point A and point B right now, they could have multiple calls on the top of it. They could have multiple passage of data from one side to the other side. This one is the first step through the internet because multiplexing, statistical multiplexing, leads to a two-way interaction between the different technologies. Of course, this whole concept will then be retook by the internet, and we're gonna see why. Anyways, then of course, as we say, the main issue here was the fact that data could not be passed if not all in a single block. And you could have a lot of bandwidth on top of it. You could have how much bandwidth you want, but what's gonna happen is that basically you will find yourself unable to transfer data, unable to transfer information. This happened when they first start to create the first example of the internet. So the first experiments on ARPANET, in which there were 2 or 3 computers in which a message was transmitted from point A to point B, and it wasn't able to actually deliver to point B. It fall everything down after the second or third letter, if I remember correctly. Now this is a great issue, right? Because in that moment the technicians start to understand that bandwidth and information could not be passed just in one block, but several blocks need to be generated. That's the down of data. Basically because what was clear to whoever is going to invent the network itself was that data from point A to point B could be way more lighter, although way more complicated in terms of problems that could happen through it, because you can lose part of it, you cannot not lose part of it. Could be more complicated then, but still more cost efficient, and in terms of the reliability could be way more faster in terms of how much data is going to pass to point A, point B. Now the great issue then was, how do we generate a network like that? So as I mentioned before, the first attempt was the infamous bus topology, which was basically one line to which several devices, several terminals actually were connected, and the terminal ends could pass between each other the information. The issue here though is again the statistic multiplexing. Why? Because at the beginning they could not pass more than, there could not be a connection from point A to point B basically between one or two more devices, because basically this was the broadcasting principle, right? So one device is streaming to everybody else, and one could not receive it or could not. This one is the principle of television basically, right? But this one could not work for the internet. So they start to think about a ring first and a tree later. So a ring topology could actually have the same thing as basically a bus topology, just that the thing was that anyone was interacting in the bandwidth itself, right? Because there was a connection between all the devices, while before the devices were just passively connected to one stream basically. Right now everybody is helping the stream basically. So this one is, you see how much everything is going to be put on each other. And then finally you will have the tree and then the mesh topology, as we say, right? The mesh topology is the one that finally use the data packages, and so the data driven topologies, which are passed through the delivery system basically, and the delivery protocol. Okay, I don't remember if it's called TCP, I think, I'm not sure about it. And yeah, what remains from the old star topology is the fact that, for example, when you connect to a server is the not centralized, but it's just the guardian of how you enter. So as in the old way, there was a switcher, a router that actually would give you back the connection in bandwidth with someone you would like to. The same thing does a server right now. So when you connect to the internet to a server, the server gives you back basically an IP address that say, okay, this one is your IP, you enter inside the network at that time, blah, 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 and so on. And then you give your request to the server that connects you to another server, and so on. So that's what remains of the old star topology. But that's how the different networks evolved during time. And right now we are in the mesh topology, and of course, right now we are going to cloud computing and quantum computing. So we are actually maybe in the next year, all these topologies will become the past. But for now, that's what we have. So let's go with the next question. That is actually which principle and characteristics define the internet? Name some. So let's proceed with the question. So what are the main features of the internet? So the internet, as we know, is a global network of interconnected networks connecting decentralized computers, and hence facilitating what is the data transfer. The emphasis here is on the decentralization, as we've seen previously, even when we were mentioning the problems that are connected with it. So there are two main types of computers in the internet. One are edge computers, that are any type of computers that basically is not the core computer. And we're going to see which one are. Edge computers are laptops, there could be, I don't know, laptops, personal computers, now there are iPhones, and therefore telephone, mobile devices, and iPads, so on, and any kind of computer basically that is not a core one. Why? Core computer are routers. So this basically means switchers. So switch that actually gonna reroute the trafficking, and we're gonna see how much they're important in their peculiar layer. So the main features that actually we are gonna see on a technical level is the IP addresses one that we were going actually to mention. As we've seen, the main feature of the internet is not only the decentralization, but even the data passing between different devices through the network itself. We're going to see what is happening. So basically, imagine that there are different layers of the network itself. There is the physical layers, that is the one of the machine, as the one that you have in front of you. Then you will have the IP packet layer that operates the connection in a manner in which the data that are transferred between A and B are actually divided, information are actually divided in small packages that are way more digestible and modular in a way. And then you will have the transport logical layer that actually permits the direction in which that data will be able to be transferred. This one, because in the transport logical layer, what it happens is that there is a TCP IP protocol that actually is gonna give you, when you connect to the server, as we mentioned previously, the IP that actually is the unique identifier inside that network, and hence using that unique identifier you could actually communicate to devices and servers and so on, in order to actually giving the coordinates of where you want your package, your data package to go, or where your devices should connect in order to receive the packages. Finally, there is the application layer, that is the application that are built on the top of the transport logical layer and on the surface feature of the network itself. So let's go with the next question that is related to QoS. If you remember, we were even talking about this in my previous video. So the intricacies of quality of service on the internet, explain the intricacies of the quality of service on the internet, thereby consider the diverse demands of different services and the financial economical aspect. So the QoS is actually the quality of service on the internet, and is built on top of the IP protocol layer. So this means on that layer that we mentioned before is the transmission slash no, let's go more deeply. Yeah, is the transport or no, the IP packet layer, that is the one before transport and the logical layer. So, as we see, the QoS is the quality of service sense and is built on the top of the IP layer, and is gonna be different basically based on the application that you're using. So at the beginning you would have just the emails as an application basically and what you would use, and this one, of course, they don't need a big bandwidth, nor they need a super big quality of service. The service could be slow, and the real-time delivery is not a critical function, so the bandwidth could even be low. But then we pass it to chat, in which chatting requires a higher quality of service, hence a higher bandwidth, and for example the 2G, right, in which the real-time delivery becomes critical, even if low bandwidth could be acceptable. Then you would have VoIP, so voice over IP, so people calling each other, in which real-time delivery is critical, and again, as for chat, bandwidth is still acceptable, so you will have the 3G, the 4G in that case. Then you will start to have the streaming video, so real-time delivery becomes critical and the high bandwidth become necessary. So quality of service need to be guaranteed throughout all these applications, and hence that's the reason why we started from 1G and we are now talking about 5G and more. This one is because more application will need a higher bandwidth, a stronger connection in order to operate functionally. And we're seeing that, for example, in streaming right now, and for example with Twitch or YouTube too, or even Facebook or Instagram, that could let you create streamings from the user itself, and hence a high bandwidth is necessary for everybody. Now the QoS, the quality of service, is a price to pay that is on the shoulder of the application itself and on the provider. And how it's going to be paid? So basically, the idea initial, as we say, is all on the shoulder of the provider. So somebody needs to pay back this cost, basically, right? That an application will find itself charging to the provider, basically, to the expense of the application in the hands of the provider. And the idea came from Odlyzinko, that was a developer in the 1999 that takes such idea inspiring himself to the Paris metropolitan system, right? To the Paris metro system, PMP, pricing system. If you go to Paris and you actually take the metro, you will notice that you will have two kinds of tickets. The regular ticket, that is, you pay the normal fare, and you will have the first class or second class ticket. This means that if you purchase that ticket, you will have higher services. Al2 is kind of the same, right? Because it is the same services that you receive, a fare from place A to place B. But what you would enjoy is less people utilizing that services, so less crowded. And on the other side, you would even have some extra that are given with it. So all these things basically had been transposed to the idea of bandwidth in the internet. So basically what you will find is that there are premium subscription and less premium and normal subscription. And the idea of Odlyzinko is to divide the network inside smaller virtual networks that are divided in relation to the utilization that network is done by the ultimate user. This one is super important because Odlyzinko didn't know that, but he basically generated the way in which contemporary tech giants are making tons and tons of money. So let's go to see actually the next question, that is actually what are the economic implications of the internet. Okay, so facing what are the economic implications of the internet, we have three main areas, which are efficiency, user flexibility, and decentralized intelligence. Each of these characters is actually interconnected between each other. So the efficiency. As the internet is based on a packet switched network, the internet is, of course, a general purpose packet switched network. You could use it for everything. And it has the unique characteristic that the whole bandwidth problem that we actually spoke about while we were talking about the various topologies is redirected in a pre-bandwidth allocation, and hence the dynamic allocation. The dynamic allocation means that the bandwidth is allocated to you considering, as we said before, the quality of service, so the necessary quality of service for the application that you're using and the utilization you are gonna do of it. Okay, so you see how much the efficiency is enhanced through this, because in this way the resources that are within the network system and the internet are actually allocated based on the user and customer needs. We arrive to the user flexibilities then, because if there is a reallocation and there is a packet switched network that is based on dynamic allocation of bandwidth, the user became epicentral in deciding how much bandwidth goes to this user or to that user, basically, because it's based on its own necessity. So that's why there is a user flexibility, because the bandwidth that receives is flexible on the use that the person needs for his own bandwidth, for his own needs. And these lead to the decentralized intelligence. There is not a central authority, but the bandwidth is reallocated by the users itself in a way. You will see that the intelligence is not put on the center of the system, but instead on the edges of the network, because the users, the edge of the system, actually are the one that develop intelligent use of the bandwidth and that develop innovation in the network itself. Let's go to see if then the next question, that is explain the following basic economical principles that are market price and quantity dependence, demand and supply interaction, incentive prices and market power, market structure and social welfare, exception to market structure norm, and then summarize. And then this one is just the introductory part. So explain the following basic economical principles. So let's go with this question in particular. So market price and quantity dependence. This one is an important, a critical statement because the price and quantity of good are in connection between each other basically, and they stem from the interaction between demand and supply. As we all know, the demand is actually how much people are willing to pay in order to have that particular good, while on the other side, supply is how much the reseller of that good are willing to actually make people pay in order to give out that good. So of course these two are a relation between each other, right? So if you would have a demand X that is going higher, so there is more people that need that, and the resources are stay in the first case in the point 1 instead of point 2. This means that on the long run, actually immediately, the price of such commodity is gonna rise up. Why? Because there is less of that product and there is more demand. On the opposite, this demand is gonna pull to itself basically an higher production of that particular commodity, but this higher production is gonna stabilize the offer until it's gonna drop down. This one is the idea of the bubbles, the economic bubbles, right? So it's gonna jump off and then jump on and then jump off. Turn on and turn off. So basically the idea is that after we reach a point in the market that is gonna pull that commodity, that production. The production is achieved by different actors. This production is going to then lead to an overproduction and then a stagnation for then a fall in prices. This one is the microeconomic impact of it. Now, this war mechanics between demand and supply could be altered because prices are not just decided on that side, but even on another side that is the macroeconomic one, based on the interaction between firms and the market. So if you have from one side perfect competition, you know that the prices are gonna drop. Why? Because you have lots of people inside the market, okay, that are selling the product, and because everybody wants to do business, basically, you will have them fighting between each other, and thus the price is gonna fall down. So the idea, based on the efficiency and social welfare, is that perfect competition is the best solution because you're gonna have prices lower and firms that are competing to give more to the users in terms of innovations, in terms of everything, basically prices, innovation, services, and product itself. So you would have even a better product, for example, on the long run. Now, the worst case instead is the monopoly. Why? Because if all these firms instead they create a cartel, basically, right? I would have a monopoly. It means that there is just one firm or one group of firms that actually control the whole market. They decide the prices, they decide how much it goes. If you want it, you have it at this price and you don't have any other possibility. You see how much this is problematic because in the long run, this is gonna take me to put the price that I want even higher than what is expected. So higher prices on a social welfare scale, therefore is lower, and on efficiency is going to be lower because I don't care anymore about meeting the customer expectation, because on my side I have my return anyways, so I basically don't care anymore to meeting the customer expectation, and hence there is no more innovativity, there is no more extra services offered, there is no more quality, the quality is dropping, everything is going bad basically when there is a monopoly. But now there are exceptions on this. So, in the case of first degree price discrimination that we're gonna see probably later, that is, if you remember my last video that I mentioned, means that to every customer is given a tailored offer in terms of price. This one is almost an impossible solution to achieve, but yet this one is the idea. A monopoly could actually fight back the idea of being a very bad solution for the supply-demand relation, basically, right? Why? Because basically on the first degree discrimination, every person basically would receive his own service at his own request, at his own price, and with the features that it would eventually need. So you will see how much all the features that create a monopoly, a bad monopoly, so I don't care no more about the customer, the price is going to be higher, the product is going to be worse, the innovation is not going to be there, is being abridged because the price is tailored to what you are willing to pay. Whatever it is, even free actually, if you want. The product that I'm going to deliver to you is based on this willingness to pay. So if you pay more, you're going to have a better product. So this is a way in which the monopoly recreate or resemble the idea of the good features of competition. And then finally, in terms of innovation, is linked to the fact of the services I'm going to offer if you pay more. So if you pay more, I'm going to have more resources to invest more into innovation. And so to give you some finance in terms of innovation, even of the first services given to you. So this one comes just for the first degree price discrimination that we're going to see later much more in detail. The second exception instead is natural monopolies. Okay. So when we talk about natural monopolies, we're basically talking about monopolies that in which firms lack incentives to produce or to have services unless they are monopolies. This is normal in the idea of economies of scale, in which there is a decreasing average costs. So basically there will be less costs in case of a monopoly, and hence natural monopolies are the only way in which this particular sector of the market is going to develop in the same way as it was perfect competition. Another component is then the elasticity of the demand. What does it mean? You will have rigid curves and elastic curves. Rigid curves means that I want a particular good and there is nothing else that could be provided that gonna substitute the needs that I have for that good. If you think about it, not rigid curve are the one related to drugs. Were the one related to drugs, especially for example, take heroin. When I am selling heroin on the market, basically any drug addicted is gonna search for heroin. It's gonna search for that, okay? And then because it's gonna search for that, as soon as I have it, basically I could put any price I want. That's why you got cartel, you got blah blah blah. Why? Because basically the average drug user is more than open to pay anything for the substance that he wants, because he needs that substance, he desperately needs that substance, and he will do anything for having it. Okay, this one is a super rigid curve. You cannot do anything about it. There is nothing else that he wants than that. Any substitution, now you know there's fentanyl, there's anything that substitute that, but at the end of the game, what is that one is basically the same concept, much more stronger in efficacy. So that's the only way in which you actually destroy that particular demand, because you create another demand with the same product, just way stronger in terms of effects. Instead, when we want to talk about flexibility of the demand curve, this means having a curve that actually has someone else alongside. This one, for example, tea. I want to buy tea, so I will go in the shop and I actually have different trademarks of tea, right? So I'll have one higher one, one lower one, and blah blah blah, and so on. So what happens is that I want a particular brand of tea, but if that particular brand of tea is gonna cost a lot, then I'm gonna go with the one that costs less, right? That maybe resembles it, right? For example, let's think about shirts. I want to buy a Gucci shirt, but what's the issue? Gucci shirts are pretty expensive, isn't it? So when I go in the shop, I found out that that fucking thing costs a lot. So regarding the Gucci shirt, so what I was telling you about the rigidity of the curve. So if you have a Gucci shirt, basically I go there and I say, look, I don't want it because it costs too much, and I can find any other shirts give me the same product and it's gonna satisfy in some way the same need. So that's what we have. So next question, we enter into the big giant topic, the first of the four topic that we need to take into consideration, that is the cost of information and supply side economy of scale. Remember, I've talked about this actually in my presentation that I upload always in this channel. So let's go with the question number 10. Explain those terms, supply side and demand economies of scale. Okay, so basically the question is, what is a supply side and demand side economies of scales? So let's make a step back. Scale economy is basically the idea of scaling. This means of increasing the presence of a particular goods or service inside the market. So there is a scaling because the presence of that particular good or services goes up in the market. You know, in terms, this is called an S-shape, curve, increasing curve. This means that basically you have starting slow, going up fast, and then staying stably on the top. Anyways, the economies of scale could be supply. They have a supply side and a demand side. The supply side is, of course, the point of view of the producer. So much more I produce a good, much more I produce a service, much more the cost for delivering it is going to be lower. Why is that? First of all, because of benefiting from what is basically my competence in creating that particular product. If I have a factory that creates engine for airplanes, okay, and have done it professionally for 20 or 30 years, I suppose they're quite good in doing that. What does it mean? That actually they have they trade so much that actually, and they create a smart system to actually deliver the product to the market in a cost-efficient way. This is the idea that much more you're dedicated in an activity, much more you're gonna become better at it. And the same works for firms and companies. So much more they're working into the market, much more they are wise on the market, and much more they are efficiently organized in order to provide. So basically there are a series of benefits and gains that is the lowering of the cost of production basically. On the other side, the demand side scale economy talks about the benefits that from the scaling comes to the demand side, because the demand side finds itself normally with lower prices or better services or better good in terms of quality. Why is that? Because it's not, at least we don't have a monopoly, as we said before. Normally, you will have a rising of the curve, and this rising for anyone else is meaning there are money to be made in that particular field and selling a particular service or good inside the market. So if there are money to be made, of course, as my father used to say, you know, what is good is liked by anybody. Like everybody likes good things. So a good thing is to earn a bunch of cash, isn't it? So what happens is that you have multiple firms that actually are playing into the market. They enter into the market and they start to give better solution or more lower costs in terms of solution. So much more people are actually using a particular services or a particular good and they're interested in it, much more they're gonna find somebody providing that to them. And if they wanted to be better than the first comers into the market as producer, they will start to give benefits to the consumer, right? So they're going to be lower prices or better quality or bundling of services or anything else basically. This is done in order in both fixed price discrimination monopoly, or in case of the perfect competition market. So, you know, you have several firms that are providing that. So the scaling is beneficial for everybody, basically, because the producer is going to pay less, but on the other side, even the consumer are going to find lower prices or better products, right? So that's why scaling is important. Let's go to the next question. Question number 11. Explain the cost dynamics of information goods. What are fixed cost and low marginal cost? So let's return to our question. So as we say, the question is about what are the information of goods, what are the outcomes, and so on. So when we talk about the information of goods, their total cost is initially pretty high and then pretty low in terms of distribution and so on. Try to think about a YouTube video, for example, right? If you wanted to distribute it, actually the cost is zero, right? But if I would like to actually produce a video, in order to meet good standards and to be sellable, we could say, I have to spend a lot of cash. But even initially, even if I want a low rendering computer, right? I have to spend 200 euro for I don't know, maybe for a phone to auto record me. I have to prepare a script. I have to invest money and time in order to create such a video. While distributing it, being a freebooter, is basically zero effort money, right? Because it is zero effort. I don't need to pay anything. I don't need to do anything. Basically, I just need to take the video, upload it on my channel, and it's done, right? So this one is the difference in terms of information good, while other good. Instead, for example, my father, that used to be a truck driver for a third-party company, would notice how much money was his chef making, his company owner making, basically, right? He created basically an empire based on the cost of distribution, because there is a supply chain that needs to be satisfied. So what is generated in factory A need to be transported to factory B, maybe, or need to be even transported to the city or at the end to the ultimate consumer of that particular good or services. So what happens is the market is that in the traditional market, you would have a high, medium, high cost or even a lower cost in terms of production, but a way higher cost depending on how far the distribution is going to reach. While when we talk about information goods, we have different rules. As information rules rely, as we said before, to a network system by default that actually is way more efficient than the traditional war, basically, because it's based on giving you dynamic bandwidth capability. This means that to each user gives his own bandwidth as it needs for his own purposes, and you have hence a super efficient user park to reflect to, but even producer park to deliver your services and your product to. You find yourself to have almost zero, if not negligible, distribution cost, but the costs then become the cost of production. So if you have a high cost of production and zero, almost no one cost of distribution, what this means is basically that you find yourself having two possible outcomes that came out of it, right? And first of all, you know that these by default are economies of scales because they incentivize the distribution adoption and then the spreading of the product inside the market. On the other side, the two comps will be the two extreme, right? From one side that you actually have dominance of one or two particular firms and hence low production and distribution costs and a price-based competition. What does it mean? That everybody is offering the same services, but there are two emergent main or one emergent main monopoly taken as a monopoly firms that actually have the monopoly of the market, and thence, as there is a monopoly of the market, in order to have much more profits, they're going to engage in price discrimination. And so in a price war, based on the prices of the services delivered, right? Many times this war is based just on that, in a competition that have the same kind as we've seen, right, for the Paris Metro pricing system, so the PMP, as then Oslitinko had reimagined it for the online services. So basically what you find yourself is having the same service offered at different price. So you see how much we are going into price discrimination, and that's a price war based on that. But this one is meaning to you that you have a monopoly behind it. The other outcome is that if having different firms and hence no price competition, but much more innovation in terms of having the interest of any firms of versioning, of actually providing new products and hence not versioning, that is much more related to the monopoly part, which means having a differentiated product and differentiated service. So inventing new services and new product anytime in order to create your own niche of the market. The final output, hence, considering low competition, low effort, the final outcome of a monopoly could be reached through a price war to gain a monopolistic power, for example, Amazon versus Netflix and so on. As we say, the reduction of the fixed cost and the increase in the number of companies, competition and therefore the versioning, or pressure from complementary products or producer. What does it mean, this pressure? So complementary product producers means that you have an externality, hence an indirect network effect. What does it mean? That you have engaged with people that are not related to your technology but are produce complementary product producer. For example, I am Apple and I give them a base for them created their own application inside my network system, right? And hence I'm telling them, look, come to my place to create your own software because I have behind me a whole user base that could be interested on it. So why going to Microsoft, man? Why creating Python? Creating my own language, creating my own environmental system. This one is even in the idea of locking in the customers, right? But we're gonna see that. Anyways, what is important here is basically that the software that is generated inside a particular system could pressure you to have new features, to have better prices, to have anything else. Because remember, if you don't have them, you are basically screwed. Why? Because we have an example of the products, you have seen them in Men in Black 2, actually, in which there is a small DVD, the smaller DVD. The company that was producing the small DVD, small CD, actually failed in its objective. Why? Because they weren't able to engage with third parties developer, with third parties product producer, and hence to generate an external indirect network effect. So we create our own network, you create our own network, let's merge together and work together, hence we lock in our own customers. They weren't able to do that. So the pressure from them is super important. The same happens with the competition with previous products. So another way to reach price discrimination is actually have a versioning of your own product. So I have better version and better update. Always, again, this one is reaching lock-in of the customer. Why? Because I'm giving you to a customer, the same customer that I have, the same services, but in a better quality. Instead of the iPhone 15, I give you the iPhone 17, right? You have better quality, you have better memories, you have a better camera installed on it. But it's always the same system, basically. It's the same system since last 10 years, because you are a fake, because you need to be an aficionados of that particular system. You need to have a relation to that system in a way, right? So to that whole network, basically, so that I will say to you, if you are willing to pay more for having a better product, I'm gonna give that to you, but it's gonna be the same product, the same family of product. So that's one of the dark side of it, because versioning is always the same version of the same product. And then, you know, the backside is that there is no interest in creating a disruptive technology, because I'm gonna lose all my previous network, basically, right? And I'm gonna open a new market in which maybe I don't have even the raw resources for completely competing, right? As we say, if we reduce the fixed cost, then there will be an increase in the numbers of companies competing in that particular market field. So this means having more people inside of it, and so on, and the scale, demand, supply, scale, and so on. And but the most important thing is that versioning together with the price discrimination are normally used in order to lock in the customers and achieving a monopoly. So basically the idea here is monopolization or dominance achieved through price discrimination, versioning, bundling, and we're gonna see other strategies. So let's go with the other examples, with the other question, and the next one is my favorite, that is actually price discrimination. So let's talk about the price discrimination, right? That we mentioned even previously, actually. You know, talking about what happens in the information good market, basically taking into consideration that there are high costs for the production, but then for the distribution, the costs are very low or negligible. And we mentioned the fact that one of the outcomes is a war for monopoly, a war for dominance into the market. If I want to achieve dominance, but yet I wanted to keep earning cash and making, achieving the fact that the market itself, the niche market which I'm tailoring, is actually still productive, okay, I need to keep that market niche working on different levels, and especially making it have the benefits of a full-on competition market, even if it is not a competition market, because I am the dominant guy in this pool of users. Basically, I kill everybody. I am the only one standing. But the problem is that I cannot be the king if I have no users and no people inside of the pool. So I need fish inside of the pool for be the top-notch king of the fish, right? So what happens is that I need to be smart on this, right? So what happens is that there are, as we say before, there are two ways of assessing the whole thing. And both of them basically is engaging in a price war, in price discrimination. So we'll have different degrees of how this price discrimination is done. So as we say, information goods are not actually super expensive in terms of distribution, and so you have the possibility of scaling, of making a bunch of cash out of this, and having a lot of people engaging with your own services and with your own products. Your issue though is to being able to lock in your customer from a side, so lock in the demand, so keep them engaging with your own service, with your own products. But on the other side, being able to keep on the profits and the inflow of profits coming. How would you do that if you actually find yourself as the leading firm or a monopoly, a natural monopoly, a monopoly inside that particular niche market? So as we say, the most simple way and what you are leading to as a high-tech firm is actually the price discrimination war, okay? Why, as an high-tech firm, you find more value in a price discrimination and a monopoly than, of course, to anything else, and to what was seen previously in the traditional market as constantly inventing new technologies and then entering in new markets, right? While instead here you stay kind of conservative, so inside a particular market, and you try to lock in people inside that particular product, right? What is going to happen is that you find yourself, due to the distribution cost, to be more interested in not engaging into the constant generation of new products. Because remember, the drafting of a new product is the high cost, while the distribution and the renovation is the lower one. So as you have that, you will not invest in the first part, but you invest in the second. As long as you have one functioning product, one functioning services, that is your core business, and once you stay away. And of course, you can expand in other market, in other niche market, but at the end of the game, try to look at Apple, for example, you are doing that always taking into consideration one main set of products, right? And you don't want to expand in oil business or in anything else, right? It's super diversified. You stay in your high-tech business, right? And in the high-tech field. And try to, expanding your network much more you can. So, as we say, price discrimination, what does it mean? It means that I'm creating always the same. You remember PMP and the Ozinco business model. That was basically, we give always the same thing, but the difference is whatever they're gonna get from this thing. What does it mean? As Ozinco used to say to us in 1999, let's take the whole bandwidth, the whole network, and subdivide in smaller networks, and you, yourself, and anyone else, basically, when you want to engage, you decide you could pay less and having what everybody has, or pay more and having a little bit more of bandwidth, a little bit more of services, a little bit more or less people utilizing it, so less crowding, less possibility of DDoS attack, more protection maybe against cybersecurity threat. This is what Ozinco had in mind. And you will be surprised, but any tech company is basically utilizing the same principle over and over in three main features, depending on how much you know about the customer, basically. So if you know a lot of your customers, like Facebook, right? They have a data about everything. Social media, they have data about everything that you like, you don't like, or Google has data about anything. So it could have pretty detailed customization because he knows everything that you would like. He knows how much you would like to spend for a particular product. He knows basically, and he can engage in the first degree price discrimination. What does it mean? First degree price discrimination means that you tailor the offer basically to any of your customers. So to anyone, you give the maximum that they are willing to pay. Okay? So you have always the same product, as we say, but the difference is that depending on which person it is, you're gonna give them basically the maximum that is able to spend. So you're gonna tailor your offer depending on each customer. It's no more like before, right? We have this fixed price for everybody and so on. This is possible because this normally in the traditional market wasn't so much done, right? You would ask me, right? Why is this used just in high tech and not, I don't know, in oil businesses? Why when I go to take my gasoline or to take my to take gasoline in the market or to take an apple in the market, we all have the same prices? The answer is just one, because if I want to make extensive research, first, and secondly, if I want to generate a pricing list for each customer, depending on how large is my customer base, it's gonna cost a lot of money to me, right? Because I need to make an extensive research. Some will be willing, some will be not willing to give you information, but let's figure out you are able to have a super detailed research first. And secondly, the fact that even for generate the framework of different prices and to organize them, you're gonna invest so much money that at the end the profit is gonna be low. But if you are an high-tech company like Facebook or Google that has a lot of data related to their customers, you see that the research is actually pretty low cost, right? I have already the data there. I just need to structure them, but they are already there. So the worst part, that is actually collecting everything, is already there. I just need to structure the whole thing. The second thing is the menu costs. I don't have to pay a lot for differentiating the prices. Why? Because the research costs were lower, and thence I know already basically from the outcome of them basically what each individual customer would like to have. Hence, I could, this is why there is huge, there is the huge value of big data, while data is considered the oil of the 21st century, because it gives you a lot of insights. It tells you who you could sell to, how you could discriminate prices, how you can make money. You know how you can make money because you know the people you're gonna sell to, right? So you see how much the barrier that there was between seller and buyer is demolished basically by the price discrimination theory and the big data market and the big data technology. Hence, the first price discrimination is based on this, right? Is tailored around this. So using that chunks of data, chunks and chunks. So as we said, this price discrimination basically found itself in having reduced cost in terms of menu, researching, and blah blah blah, and so on, right? And hence having differentiated on every single customer that I want to sell my product to. Let's go to the second. So you would ask me though, are there no benefits in this? So try to think that I'm taking data normally from auctioning, so the auctioning of product and the auctioning of particular spaces for the bidding and the bidding of spaces for advertisement, and thus I'm taking them from the advertiser data basically. On the other side, I'm taking them from the subscription on a particular site, which then gives me back data. Yeah. And finally, you would have even the one that comes from promotioning. So any kind of promotion, stuff like that, reveals you data about the customer engagement in that particular product. So what you actually have is ways for getting that data. The main issue here are, of course, the data privacy first of all, but the second, the bad outcomes that could happen is basically to have yourself with so much different prices and so on that is starts to become kind of confusing, right? Or you will have main issue related in the engagement and understanding of the difference of the customer. The main issue here are always then, of course, in the acquisition of data, and then how you're gonna acquire them, basically. So if you're not able actually to acquire them and to know well the data of each individual customer you have as Facebook or Google, then you will need a second price discrimination, second degree price discrimination. What does it mean? In the second degree price discrimination, you achieve the same result as the first, so differential prices for differential people, but it's not based on your knowledge of the people, but in the knowledge you have of your own product. Take Apple, for example. Apple is not Google, nor is our dear friend Facebook or Meta, or you want to call it. So they don't have the collection of all the data they will need, or a complete collection of them, considering how huge is their customer base. But they know another thing. They know that they have an engagement of their own community. So they know that they have a community of reference, a user of reference, and they want to. The idea of price discrimination is not only to profit from the monopoly, but even to maximize customer welfare, the welfare of the customer. What does it mean? That the customer should have the maximum with the maximum that he would like to spend. So if I would like to spend 100 euro, I have to have the maximum data I could have from there. And that shall be delivered from the producer. So that's what the iPhone is doing, right? So the iPhone campaigns are based on the versioning principle. The versioning principle is a manifestation of the second degree price discrimination. This means I'm gonna pay different price depending on the version of the software, hardware, or whatever I'm gonna engage with. So as a customer, it's not me as a producer that I will make the research and so on. On the opposite, I let the customer decide. I let the customer pick. Would you like the new iPhone 17 that costs 1,500 euro, or would you like the one that is the 15 that costs you 700 euro? Or would you like the iPhone 10 that costs you 100 euro? Which one of the three would you like? And you choose, right? I'm gonna give you basically the products anyways, I'm gonna earn anyways, and I'm gonna spread myself in different kind of customer levels, right? Because there are different levels of customer with different needs to pay, and to any one of them, basically I'm giving them my product with a different version. So you see, because it's price discrimination, because they have the same service, the same product, but with different features. This is the versioning. The main issue here, though, is that it's not like before. You don't know your customer, right? You just know your product, basically. So the main issue here is that the customer on the long time, or even in the short time, they actually decide to don't buy anymore the whole new version of the product they love, but they stick with the old one because it costs less, right? So this one is called cannibalization. That means that your own product in two different versions, the one that costs more is gonna lose customers that they are drawn to the cheaper version. Because instead of the 17, what if I take iPhone 16.9? I'm gonna spare some money and I found the same thing. And how low could I be before the quality start to be really lower in comparison to the 17? If I take iPhone 16, it's so different from the iPhone 17. iPhone 15 is so different from the iPhone 17, the iPhone 14, and so on. So you see, the customer here is not gonna pick just based on price, but it depends even on how much the customer itself decide to leave behind his customer welfare, so the welfare of his own. So he decided, yeah, I don't want a top-notch product. I could be okay with something that still could work pretty well and has some feature more than the worst version in the market, right? So how would you tackle the cannibalization? Cannibalization could be tackled adjusting, fine-tuning what is the versions, the version features. So you would have the top-notch version with the top-notch features, okay, the one maybe in which the market is much more interested. While on the other side, you will try to, in a way, even adjust the prices so that actually, if you wanna go with the top notch, it's not gonna cost you 2,000. It's gonna cost 1,500. So if you were the one that said, look, 2,000 is too much, I stick with the previous version that is 1,500. But if the difference between version 1 and version 2.0 is 100 or 200 euro, you see how much here, you can't blame too much price there. To blame there is the features that are inside if there is a cannibalization, right? Because the difference is not a huge thing, right? So that's the main thing, right? That the versioning is important when it's well done. And well done means where all the features that are interesting for the market are implemented. And the price difference between version 2.0, version 3.0, version 4.0 is not super huge, so much that it's gonna cut you off part of the market. But let's figure out instead that you couldn't do version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4 of your own product, right? But your product needs to kind of stay the same, right? And the maximum you can do is actually have a different prices or maybe some external third-party services. So first price degree discrimination is I could assess what the customer wants. Second degree price discrimination, I could not quite well know what the customer wants, but I know what my product could achieve in terms of customer welfare. And so I'm gonna improve on that side. But if you can do the first, if you can do the second, you need to jump on the third. What is the third? The third is based instead of huge chunk of population, huge chunk of region, kind of a network effect and knowledge base on that. What does it mean? That it's like the good old and the initial Ozdinko price model. So we're gonna base ourselves to the Paris Metro pricing system, and so we're gonna give the same service to different people based on the same service to different people based on other features. For example, I'm gonna give a different price based on the age, based on I don't know, the reason why you're traveling, any other features that is gonna take a chunk of the population. You see, it's different from the first degree because it's not gonna go know yourself deeply. It's just gonna know your population of reference. So for example, if I am a guy, male, between 30 and 40, if I wanna do a tiered degree price discrimination, I'm not gonna say Marco Del Monte would like this kind of thing, blah blah, A, B, and C from his product at this price. But what I know as a company is that if I am a person that is between that range of age of group, has that knowledge, has that from that particular region and community, is probably would like to have that price, probably would like to have that kind of discount on the same services. So you see, the difference here is no more based on the services and not even basically on the user, but on the community where it came from. So that's where the community, the network effects, the direct network effects, so the expanding of the network, the knowledge base and the knowledge that is shared within the network of that particular chunk of the market is important, because I need to know that particular side of the market, a particular chunk, how to expand that network of my user basically and deliver them the product as they would like. You see, it's not more as they would like, as she would like, as the user would like, but as the community would like. So that's the third degree discrimination. That is what price discrimination that you see every day in what is the normal, the good old tax fairies, bus ferries, you know, because it comes from that word, the word of transport, of public transport, and that been transposed in the high-tech market. So as you see, the main issue here is basically, again, that you need to have reliable data on population, no more on individual user. This one is a little bit simpler. So this one is the price discrimination that is actually less costly, we could say, right? Because you don't need to invest in research in terms of implementing the version of your own product. You don't need to invest in the research for knowing deeply each one of your customers. But what you need to know is basically a chunk of the population, a chunk of a region, developing a network market, and networking inside that region. That's the idea. So let's go with the next one. That is actually another strategy, that is the bundling. So what is bundling? So bundling, what is bundling? So we have talked a lot of times about the price discrimination, but especially about lock-in, right? The network effect, lock-in customers, all that stuff, and the switching costs, right? So monopolies on one side, they work on giving price discrimination, right? So there is a price war that is engaged from the dominant firms in order to lock in, we say, the customers, right? On the other side, there is the versioning part, and again, we talk about locking customers. You don't want them to go away. But there is another part, and is important, that is you want to even understand deeply what your customer would like to pay more beside the same kind of product you're offering. The example is Microsoft Office, right? I'm selling you, you would like to write a novel, so you would like on a computer, so you would like to have Microsoft Word. Fine and dandy. Another dude is actually would like to have instead Microsoft Excel. So I could do this thing, sell $100 for A and $100 to B. What again is $200. Or I can do like that. I could go with my dear friend and say, look, how much are you willing to spend for Microsoft Excel if I give to you Microsoft Word, I give you a discount, how much would you like to our good old friend Microsoft Excel? Because you don't care much about it, you will say to me, look, I'm gonna sell it to you, I would like to have it like, I don't know, half of the price, like 50. So 150 I'm earning from you, and the same applies to customers B. So instead of earning 200, I'm earning 300, right? In this way, basically, you will see that you'll have earnings that is way higher than what it could be. But there is another important effect. It's not only that your profit is going high and that you are maximizing the welfare of the customer, because the customer doesn't just have the services needs or the products it needs, he could have something else with a discounted price or with a way negligible price, because remember, the distribution for us is negligible. So actually, if I would like to give you the products, one product, I could give you another one on top without extra prices for me. So for me, is all profit on that side, okay? Because the production costed, but the distribution, so giving that to you with something else on top, it's gonna cost me nothing, right? So the cost is negligible to add that particular product on top, but the profit could be enormous. Indeed, in this way, not only I will earn double, basically, not double, but I will earn something more, 25, 50% more, because I'm selling you a couple of products instead of one. That's why it's called doubling. It's called bundling, sorry. Bundling, because I'm selling you a bundle, right? While on the other side, I'm cutting competitors off. Because look, if I'm gonna give you maybe my Microsoft Word software, and I'm just selling that alone, and the other one selling Microsoft Excel software alone, what is going to happen is that somebody's gonna tell you, look, instead of buying from Microsoft a Microsoft Excel, right? Because you still, if I was able to sell it to you bundled for $20-50 more at half the price, it means that half the price product could be sold previously by somebody else. So what happens is that I am eating up, I am beating my competitors on giving them, giving the same product I would like to offer at lower price, and instead I'm giving them to a lower price if they buy full price another product they are interested in. So what happens is that I'm getting double because I'm giving you something that maybe you don't fully care, but it's good to have, right? So you will be not only happier because actually your customer welfare is higher, but I will be happier because I have more profit out of it without losing too much money. And on the other side, I'm cutting off my competitor's advantage and I am acquiring a big advantage. This one is the lock-in of the customer through bundling, and more than that is actually utilizing on my favor the switching costs. What does it mean? Switching costs are actually the cost from switching from your technology to any other, or your own network to any other. But we're gonna see that in the next question, that is actually what are switching costs. So what are switching costs? I'm gonna explain very, I try to be brief, but it's pretty long actually. So we talk about the customers, right? And how much your customer would like to pay a particular service or product. And you create a price discrimination based on it, or based on the assumption of it based on a tiered or second price discrimination. That's good. So you see how much the willingness to pay, we can call it W, is related to the customer. But there is another area that you are interested, okay? And we mentioned it before, that is the locking in of the customer. We mentioned that you can do it through bundling, so basically cutting off your competitors while enhancing the customer welfare, okay? But on the other side, there is another way, that is the lock-in of the customer. What does it mean? That the customer could still pass to your competitors if it finds it as it found that this passing to others, buying other products, could be profitable for him. When it is profitable though, so you will have two costs to take into consideration. You have the willing to pay, W, okay, that is the main thing we take into consideration even in price discrimination. And then there are two sets of costs. One is S, that is the switching cost, and we're gonna see what they are. And the other one is the marginal cost, that is the cost that is given by the price. So you can't just take into consideration the price, but even the cost that is gonna take acquiring and passing together with a new provider of the service or the good. What does it mean? That if you change your good or your service, you're gonna basically rebuild or repay anything that you have invested in that moment. You're gonna do everything from scratch. So let's imagine you are a software developer and you created your app for working just with Mac. So in a iOS system, right? iOS system, or on Android, or in Windows. Okay. Switching, if you as a software developer decide to switch and hence to leave behind the service provider that is Windows or Android for going to iOS because you say they have a greater user base, on the other side you're gonna invest again in software and hardware implementation. You're gonna to retrain your employees in utilizing it, and you have even some psychological costs that actually comes from the changing of the device. Because remember, people don't like to change if it is profitable. And if you ask anyone that you know if they will change to an iPhone or an iPhone to an Android, you will see that they will not be able to do that, right? Many times this one is the locking in of the customer. The fact that you can't leave behind how much it's gonna cost to you to relearn the whole system, to enter inside the new network when you're leaving behind the other. So, or you take both of them, so basically the new investment is still on top of the investment you have. So if you are a software developer, you create an app that works for all the three, iOS, Android, and Windows, so you differentiate everything, and you hence invest in different things. Or basically, and this is gonna cost a lot of money, of course, or you invest in just one and you stick with it. You stick with it until it's no longer profitable. Why? Because it will still cost too much regarding the switching cost, all the changes that are necessary in order to be profitable on the other part. So the switching costs are actually the walls that are keeping you inside that particular network infrastructure, that are keeping you linked to that particular service or good. Why? Because jumping off that wall, that are all the interconnecting services or the cost that is going to be to relearn, to reinvest in that particular technology, in that different provider and so on, are the one that keeps you inside that particular, are the walls that keeps you inside that particular castle, we could say, that is the one of your community of reference. So the game of the provider and the one that is providing a particular service or good is to create such wall higher that you can. So much more higher they are, much more is impossible to you to actually jump off the cliff, right? And so this one is the relation W, the willingness to pay, needs to be greater than the switching costs and the marginal cost, and then you're not gonna change. So what I will do to you is through price discrimination assess the C part of the whole thing. So actually, you know, of this equation. So basically give you a marginal cost that you are willing to pay, that is not so big to you. But on the other side, I'm going to increase even the switching cost. So I'm going to try much more than I can to engage with third parties provider and so on, so that you cannot switch. Why? Because you have a lot of network externalities effects, a lot of tiered service providers that came within my network, and changing it means that you don't have it anymore, that you're gonna leave behind everything. So the cost became much higher, even related to that. So this one is the game, basically. You know, the game is not just the money, the game is presiding your own community. So next question is supply side economies of scale impact industry. Name the 4 routes that may lead to more concentrated industries. Okay, so we talk about what are the 4 main road in which we have the development of particular routes that may lead to a more concentrated industry. And we have the competition first to acquire monopoly. This means that acquire a monopoly will force lower prices for consumers, at least for a time. This one is the case of Amazon and Netflix. Reduction of fixed cost, because IT has reduced the fixed cost over time, leading to more entrants, particularly in industries where there is a high demand for variety, but also in commodity industry. So, for example, news, magazine, and business, and competition with your own prior production. So the installed base of a firm's own output is a formidable competitor, particularly when technological progress is rapid. Apple, for example, in terms of smartphone and computers, so the firm finds itself fighting against the against the other, against its own prior production, pressure from complementors. Sellers of complementary products would like to see lower system prices and have various ways to exert pressure. So you will have these four main things to decide the prices. So there will be the competition to acquire monopoly, so hence lower prices, the reduction in fixed cost because IT had reduced on a long time the fixed cost of production. Especially in industry where there was a high demand for variety. Then there is always a competition with your prior production. This is going to lower the price, of course, because you would like to have in the new format, as we say, both in the case of versioning. This one is the case. Pressure from the complementors that they would like to have lower system prices and hence have various ways to exert pressure because from them comes chunks of your own network. So we start from the second part, that is the network effects, switching costs and lock-in, and demand side economies of scale. And we start with the great question of what is the bandwagon effect. So there are basically, so the bandwagon effect is the effect of the beneficial effects that consumers have when there is an expanding of the user base of a particular good or service. This one normally is an S shape, so you will see a slow start, a rising number of people utilizing it, and so a higher demand, and then it's gonna stabilize. So this one is the S shape that we mentioned even before. So this comes with two particular benefits. From one side is the one that is coming from the inside of the network, so the network internalities, we can say. So the direct network effect, that means having a larger user base will mean for the consumer have the possibility of relying to a larger pool of users, hence a greater communication, a greater utilization, and for example, greater solution for his own problem, a greater community to reference to. While the network externalities, the indirect network effects are actually everything that is happening outside this enlarging community. Much more the community is large, much more it's gonna attract third-party suppliers that are gonna deep dive into it in order to acquire that chunk, that network and that chunk, and merging and even given more people that comes from their own network. So you will see that as a consumer, when more users are utilizing that particular set of people, you're gonna see that when it's gonna enlarge, you're gonna see more people coming inside of it, and much more than people, you're gonna see even much more third parties coming inside and giving you help on this. So the next question that's gonna come through is what are indirect network effects? Okay, so what are network the indirect network effect? So the indirect network effect is basically the benefits that the consumers and the user would have based on the complementary side of the bandwagon effect. You remember that before we talked about a bandwagon effect, which is going to attract suppliers, right? So the idea is that I'm going to invest in a product, I'm going to buy a product because I know that in the future there's gonna be a huge boom of it in terms of user interest on it, and from that there's gonna be actually suppliers that are gonna jump on this. So I know that I'm gonna have a series of benefits in terms of operating system or third parties, hardware and so on, that are gonna be stemming from it. So basically, try to think about the video game industry, right? When the Nintendo Wii was actually generated, when they created it, many people bought it with the idea that a lot of video games would be generated for that console, that was the console of the future, right? It wasn't like that. But in any case, the important fact is that the Nintendo Wii is an example of this. So Actually, the reason why I'm investing in that product, why I'm buying that product, and so as if you are a producer, why I'm giving you money, is because I think that in the future there's gonna be a network building operation by you, and from that a bandwagon effect that is gonna enlarge the network, and hence an indirect network effect is gonna happen that hence the developers and third parties are gonna work in order to acquire the users that belongs to that community, to that network, with engaging prices, right? So, or with particular what is that, with particular products that are not accessible to any other. So you have some particular video games with some particular features that nobody has, just I have, because I am inside the network of Nintendo Wii. It didn't work, of course, but for many others it worked. For example, for the Xbox in the early 2000s, right? Halo was working just with the Xbox. It was an Xbox game, and it had been a huge success that attracted other games that was related to it. We could talk about Windows that from Xbox, so from platform, decided to invest in actually generating a gaming computer. So bundling operating computer with gaming features. So in this way, actually, you know, for example, you got Windows right now, even a laptop as the Windows game console, which let you record your own screen. This is done because they merge together two different products, right? So because they want to attract the people from the network that previously was the one of Xbox. So they know that investing in the Windows-based Xbox and system, the Windows system, one day they would have achieved a gaming computer. And they did. So actually that is the idea of indirect network effects and the benefits that come with it. Now, question number 14, but it's not question number 14, but anyways, the next question is explain the pricing strategies that we talk about in class. So the price policies that we explain in class were basically based on the idea of externalities and how they interact with the policies of the price policy. So we see that the price policies for now is basically a function that is W equal S plus C, where S is the switching cost and C is actually the marginal cost, that is the price that actually is from the product. And we'll see that in a monopoly, the market will need to base this price on both the situations. So on one part is the fact of the strategy of first degree price discrimination for tackling C and thence reducing its value, or rising the switching cost through bandwagon effect and network externalities, right, that comes from it, and hence rising the cost of the switching cost. While in the middle there is the bundling strategy that is actually to cut off even the possible competition through it. So let's imagine the situation of a firm that actually is a producer of smartphone, while firm B is actually a producer of application that should work on such smartphone and with such in connection with such smartphone operating system. What is going to happen if company A that produces smartphones would like to enhance his own revenue? What it's gonna do is that company A will decide to actually heighten, not to lower its own price in order in this way to have an economic return and increase in sales. Of course, if that happens, firm B is gonna have an implementation of his own sales. Why? Because it's directly connected with that. So if firm A has a larger number of users, then that users are going to utilize the application of firm B. So what happens is that the network that is generated under firm A is in direct correlation with the network of firm B. So firm B finds itself depending on it. So these externalities is actually the main concern when deciding about the price, because firm A could even decide, company A could even decide to not raise its price, not lower it, keeping it as it is, and renouncing hence to some parts of the customer, because she's sure that through the utilization of that particular application just with his own uh, device, people will come into utilizing his own device. So you see how much externalities could be a double-edged sword that actually work even for the producer, because there is a connection between the two, and that's one of the two could actually decide to not lower its price and relying all to the network of the other. So let's go with the other question, that is explain bandwagon supply. So what is hence the bandwagon supply side, the bandwagon supply? So we talk about the bandwagon seen by the eyes of the consumer, right? And so how much in the bandwagon effect there is a benefit, that is the attracting the suppliers, and on the other side the suppliers could on the long run lead to a lock-in of the consumer itself, or the user itself. On the other side though, it is to take into consideration the whole shenanigan that basically is what happens if I am the producer and I'm noticing a bandwagon effect. If there is a bandwagon effect, suppliers are gonna jump on me basically, so they're gonna try to get a piece of the cake basically, because they know there is an externalities that they could profit from without having their price lowering. But as there are a lot of suppliers that are going to engage with me, basically there's going to be a price war between them. In the same way as there is between me and my possible competitors. So trying to achieve more people, trying to get more people, try to create a price discrimination and so on, in order to given even to me a better price in order to our collaboration, right? And to my customers a better price. So basically what we have is a ongoing war between them. This one could be negative actually. Why? Because you could find yourself with a lot of uncertainty on which supplier could work and which could not, especially considering that, for example, let's talk about application. Doing that doesn't happen without a previous check or so on, basically, right? So anybody of us with an Apple ID could subscribe as an Apple developer, right? And could start to be developing his own app. So the great question here is, how would you avoid all the chaos, all the chaos that's gonna come from this price war that is gonna happen between them, between the suppliers? The answer is simple. You're gonna eat the suppliers. So basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna acquire, merging with the supplier, in order that slowly you're gonna take all the supply chain basically, and you're gonna manage not only the production part but even the whole supply chain, hence lowering way more the distribution costs for you. They were already low because they were engaged in a price, but now they are basically zero. They are just based on the organization, right? So what is gonna happen is the vertical integration as a solution, in order to avoid uncoordination between the different products that are gonna interact with my own community, right? So I wanna protect the community from being too broad in terms of the suppliers, because too broad of suppliers means uncertainty and even uncoordination in developing products that could attract one part and the other part. Remember the case in which they higher the price, they lower the price, and so on. You don't want them to benefit more than you benefit from your own collaboration. So it's basically on their side, they are the only one that they're actually acquiring something. You would like to reshape the whole thing in order that it's gonna benefit you too, right? So that's the thing about bandwagon supply. And now we pass to another part, the third one, and there's the fourth one that is the last, that is platform competition and strategies. If you remember, we talked about this even in my previous video. And the great question question 16 will be, what are the two main types of platforms? Name examples as well. So as it could be seen, we have two main types of platforms that are the intermediaries and the system architecture. The intermediaries are the one that bring together different types of user to enable an economic or social interaction. Take any examples that you would like e-commerce platforms or social media platforms. Systems instead that provide a software architecture that is going to allow different type of user and complementary business partners to connect and benefit from the platform-based functionality. So in that case, you will have a platform-based functionality that suppliers, firms, and users could benefit from. In that case, examples could be users and hardware. That will be hardware platforms like Apple, Windows, and so on. So you have these two main conceptualization. Now, next question is, where lies the value of internet-based platforms? And you will need to name three factors. So, where does the value lies when we talk about internet platform? So basically we will have three main sectors, right? We will have internet-based platform as intermediaries, we say that before, as innovation engines or as system architecture, as we talked before. And the new one that is relatively new, is just in 10 years, is that information facilitator, okay? So the first one, as we say, is related to e-commerce, YouTube sites, in which basically the users is gonna have a place in which he could interact with others that are interested in what is going to offer, basically, right? Like YouTube, I am a YouTuber, I upload a video and I'm going to pass my video to people that are interested into it, basically. So I know that inside that platform there is a pool of users that is interested in what I'm going to produce. The same for eBay and the same so on. While when we talk about innovation engines or system architecture, is that developers that are attracted because they have unique features that they could generate through that particular platform. While in the end, instead for enabling information sharing, what is important here is the sharing of information. So what happens for the user is that in that platform, I know that there is a lot of people I could exchange information with, and I could exchange impression, opinion, I could exchange anything. So I have an interactivity with the user-based platform. But what is the benefits? What is the key value that comes for the producer, for the platform holder? So in the first case, the case of being third parties to be intermediaries, this comes from engaging in different user pool with all much more user pool possible that comes from that particular provider, right? So let's make the example of YouTube. YouTube has a series of YouTubers that tackle different sides and different chunks of the market, right? Any one of them could be a targeted audience for me. So much more producer I have that wanted to connect with the other people, with their own users, with their own customers in a way, much more I know I'm going to engage in different sub-networks, basically, hence expanding my user base. On the other side, innovation engines know that attracting developers means attracting innovativity, and the innovativity that is the main value of high-tech markets, of course, means hence attracting again user, and thence the network that is inside of it is gonna expand. Finally, while I'm enabling information, basically this comes from the network itself, basically, because much more my network is large, much more there are people that are going to attract other people in the bandwagon effect in order to exchange information and communicate between each other. So my key value comes from how large is the network itself. So let's name 3 features of the internet-based platforms compared to traditional sectors. So what are the 3 main features of internet-based platforms compared to the traditional sector? From one side there is the scalability, customization, and then rapid innovation. Scalability is what we are talking about, the whole of this video. So basically is how much there are higher production costs and lower distribution and marginal costs. What does it mean is that the development of the platform itself, so larger it's get in terms of user, it doesn't get much more expensive, basically. This is very different from the traditional sectors, basically, right? Because larger of my users, it doesn't make me poorer, basically, but instead, on the contrary, it makes me richer, as we've seen before. Customization means that I will be engaging with each and every user in a more cheaper way because platform and their code is very good in interacting with people and making people interact between each other, and each of these interactions is the possibility of expanding the network, and as we say previously, it means expanding the value of the platform itself, because at the end the value and the money is always connected to how large the network could get, right? So that's the scalability, and that is connected with customization. So the engagement of the profile of the user with the whole pool of networks let the platform actually help him out in finding what's interesting, what does interest him, what doesn't interest him, and so on. So this is actually a customization of the use of the platform that is not possible in traditional sectors. The final part is the rapid innovation. Platforms invest a lot in innovation in order to be more efficient with algorithms, with search algorithms, with flagging algorithms, with anything else, in order for their community and their network to be to have more efficient results and more efficient utilization from the platform itself. In this way, these 3 main features, scalability, customization, and rapid innovation, are the one that can actually differentiate the platform sector by the traditional sector, because the traditional sector wasn't able to afford any of these 3 without a lot of money wasted from them, while instead the platforms-based sectors could do that easily without spending tons and tons of cash. So let's go with the next question, that is, what are the main challenges for platforms? What are strategy for those challenges? Name 3. So there are 3 main achievements, we could say, 3 main strategies that we need to use. The first one is to increase the network, right? So increase the users. The second is to increase the suppliers. And the third one is to be the first mover. So actually cut out all the possible competitors. How do we achieve this? The first one, attracting users, you could do that basically both using a particular price, so with price discrimination, for example, so they have something tailored and custom to them, provide differentiate through technology to stand out, and of course being the first mover, so enter inside a market in which nobody's there, and so is be the only one to supply, to be the supplier. How would you attract the complementors? You start encouraging companies, as we say, to run services on your platform in order to enhance its appeal, and you could do that for offering technical support, training, and tools to the complementors, or leveraging a large user base to attract more complementors. So you see how much important is the network, because if we attract users, then we can attract complementors. Finally, how do we cut off our competitors? We could do that through bundling, as we've seen before, or if we are able to outpace them with our technology. So, we focus then on a user group, a particular user group that is not touched by our competitors, or we use a prior existing network platform that we build by ourselves, or as we say, through bundling and through price discrimination, we could slowly outpace our competitors. So that are example are Apple, but you can find even with the Google and so on. And now we pass to the next question, that is, what are two important aspects when it comes to maintaining platform leadership? So the role of leadership is very important, and actually could be achieved in four main ways. That is balancing internal and external innovation, optimizing the product technology, managing external relationship, and maintaining a streamlined internal organization. What does it mean in detail? So when we want to achieve an equilibrium between internal and external innovation, we need to understand what could be developed by us and what instead shall be developed elsewhere externally. So, we need to have boundaries on what is more convenient, make somebody else develop the technology or develop us by ourselves. This depends on cost of research and so on. And instead, if it's different, it's more or less of the cost of investments. Then you have the optimizing of the product technology, so aiming, as we've seen, to have a constant innovation inside your own product and what you're offering in the market, and managing the external relationship. As we say, one of the main features is actually having engagement with the supplier. So you will need to manage that relations in order to be profitable both for you and for them, as we've seen, even in order to be coordinated with you in what they are offering to your own network. And finally, have an internal organization that is up to the task and is able to provide solution in the faster way possible and with in a cost-effective way. These are the four main strategies and the four main things that you need to take into consideration when talking about leadership. Then there is Spotify, example as a successful platform, but actually I talk about this about my previous video. So actually I will use that instead of this, and instead I will go with question 22, that basically is, how do platforms compete for users? What are the new marketing mechanisms? What is competition, consumer behavior in online markets? And describe all these three in details. So the technical part is that there are three main components of what is necessary for a platform in order to having scalability and therefore to grow. So we would need to have network effects that gives them a competition edge, we could say. Then having new market mechanism such as auction or recommendation systems, and predicting the consumer behavior. But let's go in detail. So regarding network effects, we talk about them a lot. Network effects is the effect that comes when the user base is gonna expand in itself. We have seen even three different functions actually that are related to it, but anyways, this one is what we have. And then there is even the implication that the firm are gonna strive to attract users. The pricing and the market structure, and hence how the market dynamics is shaped by the network effect, is that in order to attract user, the platform is gonna offer subsidies or trying to be the first mover in order to certify user adoption, right? And to be the most competitive. So there are then the three different mechanisms that are auctions, reputation system, and structured searches, which are the one related with the challenges that are on that. The first one, the auction, are related in the main challenge to how do I determine a value for ad revenue, for example, for ad space on my platform. So for suppliers that could be interesting and appealing to them. How could I understand it? So the first thing that a platform does is giving it out to the bidding. So basically, that ad space is given to the bidding of the supplier, and hence their bidding is gonna contribute to the dynamic pricing even of the network itself, right? Because in this way, the value of the network is gonna change, and the price itself is gonna change based on the largeness of the network. Because if I have a huge network like Facebook, my ad space is going to cost more than actually a smaller platform with a smaller user interaction. The reputation recommendation system instead is a defense that has been implemented by many, for example, Airbnb, eBay, but anyone basically, which aims to defend ourselves from the security threat of scams and any other particular user that could be negative for the user experience, right? And this one could give the possibility of evaluating and rating the customer interaction between peer-to-peer, right? So they evaluate each other. Now, of course, this one is a double-edged sword because there is a lot of power given on the hands of the users. The times, for example, in restaurants for TripAdvisor or so on, could put a bad review and eliminating a chunk of the market based on it. Finally, we have the structured search processes, that is basically a series of applications that led to the customization of the user experience, because there are algorithms and so on that help out in defining and help out the customer in his own research. And the benefit could So the benefits for the user in this case is actually to have more customized research, right? So that's why they are investing in innovation in terms of the platform, and investing in innovation in terms of searching and having a structured research, because it's important to have structured search processes in order to have what you need for as a user inside the platform and inside the community. If you don't have it, then you're screwed basically, and you wouldn't have a user experience that attracts users, right? And so you see that the three market mechanism, having auctioning, having a review system, a rating system, and having then structured search processes are one of the core fundamentals that actually market dynamics that are going to attract users. Then the last thing is the competition and consumers' behavior in online markets, and as we say, there is a prediction of consumer behavior that needs to be done. So in online spaces, there is always a lower cost in terms of search, right? Even because there is a structured search helped out by the technology itself, by the algorithm, as we've seen in the previous part, right? And beside being a product proliferation, there are a lot of products for meeting the needs of any customer, basically, right? This triggers then a flexibility, right? So prices that change based on demand, supply, or other external factors. And the customer response is important if you are a platform, because you need to understand the customer behavior as this dynamic and effortless research means, and big proliferation of product means that there is a lot for them to choose, and as they found themselves constantly changing. So that's why you find, for example, YouTube, that a video that is 1 year old starts already to be very old. A video that is 5 years old is already a product that doesn't connect anymore with the user of here and now, okay? And you will see that much more a video is closer to the user in terms of time, much more it is engaging for him. Why? Because in a way or in another, it interacts with the new needs of the market that had proliferated in a particular age and so on. So in this way, you find yourself predicting the customer behavior, so try to do that through pricing strategy, user preference, and the recommendation systems, right? So that's why you're investing a lot in innovation, because you will need algorithms that will predict the user preferences, pricing strategies, and the effectiveness of the recommendations. The challenge is then having the data for predicting so that's why your pool of users is very important. Larger it is, simpler it is for you not only to have price discrimination and to use their data for giving price discrimination, but even the fact that you could actually utilize such data in order to foresee what they're gonna choose in the future in terms of products. Now, how do platform pricing mechanism work? So the question here is, how are the pricing strategies for platforms, right? We've seen the platform strategies in general for the high-tech market related to the function of W S plus C, but let's see it here. So basically the main thing is subsidization of the price. What does it mean? That basically who doesn't generate the cross subsidization of users. So basically the idea is to charging low prices to users, groups of users who create value for others, and high prices to users who do not. What does it mean? That basically who's going to interact with your platform, who's going to use your platform, is going to pay less if he's going to create value for others users, right? While he's going to pay more if actually doesn't create value. We have seen how the three values are different, right? Depending if you're talking about intermediaries, if you're talking about platform as innovation engines, or we're talking about platform as information enablers, right? So on all of them, the question is, if you are someone that actually is gonna attract new users, you're not gonna pay, or you'll pay a very low price, while instead, if you're not gonna attract anything, but on the opposite, you could be the one that push them out, you're gonna pay more. So that's why, for example, Google search services are free, or YouTube is even paying their own YouTubers based on how much people are gonna see their videos. Why? Google search are free because if I'm searching through the engine, basically I'm giving data that could be reutilized and sold to the people that are interested to, which are the advertisers. Instead, who's gonna pay are the advertiser. Why? Because the advertisers are the ones that are not bringing any new value, any new customer. On the opposite, they could, if there is too much advertising, like for example, if you imagine all that site that they are flooding you with advertisement, on the opposite, you're actually, don't like to stay in a site like that, because even there's gonna be so much ads that actually you're not gonna able to use that platform, use that site, use anything, because you are flooded with advertisement, almost a spamming way, basically, right? So that's why they're paying. And the same thing applies to YouTube. As YouTube, as Google, I'm willing to pay you for any customer you're gonna attract to my platform, right? For any person you're gonna attract through video, hence expanding the network, I'm gonna pay you. So I know that I'm gonna incentivize the attraction and the lock-in of you, because as a producer of videos, a video producer, because you wanna attract, you wanna expand my network, and you wanna use both my intermediary platform, right, that doesn't produce content, you produce content, in order to dive into its pool of users that comes even from Google, you actually are gonna be paid because you are generating value, attracting users, while as an advertiser, I'm gonna pay because I don't attract them. So that's why this is deeply connected with the trade-off between extracting surplus from core user and reducing the prices for attracting new user. So you see, it's always the same old good thing thing that the telecom business had found. So the old customers needs to stay locked in, but on the other side, we need to be smart enough to attract new users. So you're gonna have the equilibrium, and the core users, the old ones, need to be the one that are playing the game, or that anyway they are locked in to the game itself. What they are interested in the platform are the externalities. What are the externalities? We said before are the relation that there is between a platform and the suppliers. So externalities are the epicenter of the revenues, right? Because they don't not only attract other people from another network, the network interested in that particular feature, in that particular application, for example, if I am an innovation engine, but even on the fact that such application, such developer will need to pay something in order to produce, right? Or the enablers, the one that passively benefits from my network, they're gonna need to pay me in order to utilize what comes, the value that comes from a network. For example, if I am Google, you will need to pay me as an advertiser, as a supplier, right? As a supplier of the advertisement, because I have the data that you need, and I could give you more data thanks to my big network. So the network owner here is actually the one on top of the pricing game, as we have seen. So let's proceed with question 24. 3 innovative markers have emerged online, and what are the new mechanism related to such markets? So we're gonna answer 2 questions instead of just one this time. So what are 3 innovative markets that emerged online? One is the consumer's marketplace for used goods, services, and loans. One is real-time markets for advertising and financial trading, and online superstores. Now, what is important, remember what we said before, right? What we said before, one of the key features is the externalities. One of the pricing system that is happening in the platform, different from the others in the high-tech market, is the cross-subsidization of the users, right? So that there is an engaging of new users through subsidization. And hence the price to pay, the revenue to be extracted needs to go to the one that does not attract the customers. So that's why there had been 2 different mechanisms to match demand and supply, but even to take advantage of the new technologies, that is the sponsored search and the reputation system. Especially sponsored search, we have seen even before, is pretty important in order to talk about even the advertisers. So in regards to search, we have 2 types of search: the organic web search, which match users with query with relevant results, and utilize words in the user query and analyze website content, ranking the results, and hence highlights the importance of algorithms like PageRank to assess the significance of web page. While on the other side, there is the much important feature that is the sponsored web search, that instead involves a market auction system for ad placement alongside search results. User queries may indicate purchase intent, making them valuable for advertisers. Advertisers participate in bid and competition for attention based on the user queries. The rules of this auction are broadly similar across various search engines like Google, Bing, and Yahoo. So we see that sponsored web search is way more important, way stronger than actually the organic web search that was the initial basic feature, right? That just search based on the words that are inside your query. Now it's no more just like that. You even have the bidding. So what's happening? The sponsored web search means that starting from your query, I suggest you product that came from a bidding auction that was happening before based on that search. This one is very important because it's an externality. This one is attracting suppliers, charging them for the ad revenue inside the web search cost. So Google here is gaining based on this as there is a cross subsidization of the users, right? And hence they will need to not pay, but the advertiser will need to pay, the one that are utilizing my pool of network, my network pool, for achieving profits without giving me nothing back. Then they will need to pay me. That's the idea, and that's what is based from on the auction mechanism that they come in the structured and suggested sponsored web search. So the next question is, how will this auction mechanism work? So how does the bidding work? So the auction basically for ad revenues in Google happens in this way. Basically, you would have the places of the bidder, so the place in which the advertiser wanna stay, so first, second, third, fourth, or fifth, and then the advertiser places bids on that places in order that when a particular term, when a particular query came out from the user, is gonna find his product on the site, right? So depending on how much they're gonna pay, basically they're gonna be higher in the rank, all right? So that's the idea. And the second idea instead is that they are paid, they're gonna pay Google every time that actually their ad is clicked. So what's gonna happen is basically that if I am an high bidder, even if I bid a lot, what is gonna happen is that I'm gonna pay my bid just when users are gonna touch my ad and enter inside my site for buying stuff. So basically that's when I'm gonna pay. But remember, we agreed before how much I'm gonna pay based on the bidding. So the risk here is what's called bid sharing. So basically that I'm gonna give you the first place, but you're never gonna pay me. So in order for avoiding that, basically there are some mechanisms that have been implemented, for example, by Google, right? That is basically second price format because there is in the second price format there is actually the winning of the bidding by the highest bidder and the second highest. Okay. In this way, basically, if it's not gonna pay me, that's the last time he's gonna have his bid on top, and he's gonna push out, and I'm gonna take the second and put him on top and let him pay. So basically, this could mean having truthful bidding and preventing the bid shaming part that we talk about. The second one is the quality score. So search engine assess the quality of each ad and adjust the bid weights accordingly. Higher quality advertiser achieve better position, enhancing as the user experience. In terms of network, we have a two-sided networks here. From one side, we have users that would like to interact with search engines that gives more accurate results, while advertisers would like to have pools with higher number of users, right? So on one side, you would have the interest of advertisers to have a biggest network pool, why our dear friend, the users would like to have a search engine with us suppliers like AI or algorithm suppliers, which are so top-notch that actually could help out much more in giving proficient result to him. So this is why they're investing in innovation, right? Because they are accommodating both of them in order to achieve a larger pool of users and a larger pool of advertisers in order to make demand and offer meet inside their platform. In this way, though, the network features is that reach gets richer because advertiser in this way contributes to having a better data, and thence they lead to have a more estimation on the advertiser quality through the click-through rates and better results for less common queries. So much more I have advertiser, much more I have a pool that I could utilize and data I could utilize based on the click-through rates, and hence I could have better data basically on what was suggested. Now, what are reputation system and what they're good for? We're gonna answer these as our next question. So returning to the rating system. So the rating systems are super important. Why? Because not only they give some kind of power to the customer, so actually using the network for good, even to evaluate the services that are provided to the network and the third parties that are engaged with the network, but even providing a feedback and a double threat basically. From one side, when you leave a review and we know that the review on the rise and there are not sectors that are not touched by it, you are basically influencing the market. So the consumers is gonna influence, the users are going to influence the retailer or the second part they are actually reviewing, to which they're actually giving a feedback. What does this mean? This means that actually you have a review mechanism, a feedback mechanism that is gonna to help the network to be safe in terms of the service provider and to achieve high quality in that terms. So the main issue here is that you can find reviews as a public good, so review done for the benefits of the whole system, but on the other side you have so much power inside the users that basically the user itself could find themselves ruining the business of somebody else without even a reason, sometimes just out of your own perception, after your own feelings. So the great problem of online reviews is that while their influence is rising, on the other side the problematics that are related with them are even becoming way more spread. So that, for example, there are entire sector about restaurants, we're talking about restaurants or l'hôtellerie, you know, that are completely subjugated by the review system, so much that is way more important than actually the service they are providing. So the customer experience is so important, and this review is so important that actually they will do anything in order to achieve a 5-star in that particular platform. So this one is the main issue regarding to user reviews, that is a user feedback is perfect even in terms of evaluating evaluating and having data on the advertised and the reseller that is advertised, but on the other side is even a double-edged sword. So let's go to the last part, that is actually predicting consumers' behavior and what basically is our answer. So the price of consumer behavior is really important for platforms. Although there are lower search costs and that should logically result in lower prices for the consumer, there is a persistent issue with high price dispersion, so variation in prices for the same product. Comparison shopping engine CSC so emerged to assist consumer in comparing prices. Consumers still struggle to effectively compare prices, leading excessive search cost. The expectation is that lower distribution costs will shift demand away from common items to niche products. The importance of niche items has increased, but there is an evidence of simultaneous growing demand for popular products. Falling distribution costs contribute a more skewed distribution to sale, with certain products dominating the market, and then we know that the reduced transaction costs should lead to fewer posted prices and more flexible dynamic sales mechanism. The action model facilitates price discovery and encourages buyer competition for scarce goods. However, over time, there has been an increase in listing with posted prices rather than auctions. the internet has not necessarily reduced the cost of running auctions, but it has reduced the cost of comparing prices. As a result, dynamic pricing is often applied to non-auction websites. Now, last part, the sharing economy. These one are the last 6 pages, 5 pages, something like that, because we are at page 60, so the last 6 pages, but we're gonna sweat on this. So, what is the sharing economy is the next question, and there are some other questions that we're gonna answer. So, how will we define the sharing economy? So, the definition is from Stephanie in 2015, which defined the sharing economy as the value in taking underutilized assets and making them accessible online to a community, leading to a reduced need for ownership of those assets. What does it mean? There are underutilized assets that are owned by a community, which are granted accessibility in an online community, hence leading to a reduced need for the ownership of those assets that starts to be owned collectively. Okay. So we talk about a transformative system that harnesses digital platforms to optimize the utilization of underused assets, fostering community interaction and altering traditional notion of ownership and employment. So you have the main thing that is market-based and has a high impact on capital, but the main thing is that sharing economy is based on crowd-based networks. So there is a pool of users that actually is using online platforms to sharing underutilized assets or underutilized services in order to have a collective value imposed on it. And there is a blurring lines between what was the private use and the public use and the professional use. So basically, for example, once upon a time you used to finish work and going home with your own car, or using your car for going to place A to place B from a city to another. Now you have BlaBlaCar. So basically you share your asset, your car, and your transferring. And such asset is no more owned by the word of the by yourself, but is owned by the collectivity. They're gonna give you a feedback system, they're gonna rate you, and they're gonna pay you for the time they spent with you in that particular car. So you have a blurring lines, a crew-based networks, and on the other side, a huge capital that is moving around these particular communities, because as we know, they are related to the S-shaped networking phase, which means that there is a bandwagon effect which attracts a lot of money and a lot of people. The evolution could be seen from Craigslist to Udemy, in which we see an evolution from Craigslist to Airbnb to TaskRabbit to Uber and then to Udemy. So Craigslist just was putting ads related to jobs, professional, sales, and wanted item. Okay, and individual earnings would vary. While Airbnb is offering rentals and homes, and the average host will gain $7.53, while TaskRabbit would be the earnings of $45 per day, with Uber 20 per day, and finally with Udemy $7 per day. But some made more than $1 million through this knowledge base, collective knowledge base. Okay, what are the 3 key technological factors that have shaped the sharing economy? From one side, there is the digital representation, so the conversion of physical entities such as currency into a digital information, the technological advancement, so the continuous and exponential growth of hardware capabilities, bandwidth, storage, and minimization of digital services. Despite the apparent slowdown then of the Moore's law, this trend persisted by augmenting the functionality and reliability through the software. And then enhanced programmability, a sustained increase in programmability in a modular fashion, allowing the aggregation, codification, and integration of greater complexity into standardized software platforms. Notably, the capabilities of devices like smartphones are continually improved through the addition of software applications. But what are the consequences? This one is a consumer-centric technological innovation, because the primary driving force in the sharing economy is the development of products tailored to individual consumer needs, as opposed to exclusive focus on corporate requirements. The digital transformation of physical assets, so you have the Internet of Things, so the embedding intelligence in physical objects for easier tracking and monitoring, and the 3D printing, for example, so enabling the acquisition of designs rather than physical objects, fundamentally altering traditional production methods. The decentralization and blockchain, the rise of the decentralized peer-to-peer network and blockchain technology, revolutionizing conventional centralized structure. And the digitization of trust, so trust as a cornerstone in numerous transactions has undergone digitization, likely referring to technologies like blockchain that foster trust in the centralized system. In essence, these technological catalysts have not only transformed the sharing economy, but have also influenced how consumers engage with technology. The production and monitoring of physical assets, the ascent of decentralized technologies, and the digitization of trust with shared transaction. What will be the difference between sharing economy and alternative platform? In essence, the sharing economy is characterized by a temporary and peer-to-peer interactions, enabling the efficient use of underutilized resources. Alternative platforms, on the other hand, may involve on-demand services that create new capacity or optimize existing resources. So, taxi services, for example, on-demand economy. In the on-demand economy, consumers create new capacity by ordering services such as taxi when needed, generating demand for a specific trip from point A to B. The type of services involves the creation of new capacity, as the trip wouldn't have occurred without the consumer's request. Carpooling, instead, that is ride sharing. In true ride sharing, like carpooling, the consumer occupies a seat that would have been used by the driver for the planned journey from A to B. This involves the optimization of existing capacity rather than generating new capacity. Home sharing platform, like underutilization discussion. Home sharing platforms like Airbnb are evaluated in terms of underutilization. For instance, when a homeowner is away or there is a spare bedroom, the asset is considered a temporary idle capacity and can be shared temporarily. However, if someone purchases a second home explicitly for permanent rental to tourists, it transforms into a commercial lodging venture akin to a bed and breakfast or an hotel. So what are the sharing economy characteristics? Sharing economy characteristics are involving of the customer-to-customer interaction, so peer-to-peer interaction, facilitate a temporary access to the physical goods, includes a second-hand economy where consumers sell goods to each other through platforms like eBay, Taobao, or Facebook, encompasses the product-service economy where firms provide temporary access to products, retaining the ownership for reuse, embraces a peer-to-peer service delivery for the on-demanding gig economy involving the purchase of services like rides, handyman service, or prepared meal. So, last question, what is the motivation behind sharing economy rentals? Emergence of the P2P rental markets. P2P rental markets specifically gained prominence in the 21st century due to the advancement in market design and management facilitated by electronic commerce. The economic challenge of underutilization of durable goods is not a new problem, but the diffusion of marketplace with electronic tools such as recommender and reputation system has been a recent phenomenon. Rental versus ownership dynamic. Examining the economic implication of choosing rental over ownership, consider factors like price, quantity, and overall welfare. Exploration of whether these platforms led to improved societal well-being. Possible advantages to counter-arguments. Consideration of potential advantages such as circumventing traditional regulation, counter-argument that P2P platforms can innovate in addressing market issue, making existing regulation redundant. But what would be the challenges for individual owners in the rental? The search costs. Historically, high search costs in finding and evaluating trading partners have been substantially reduced though by the internet. Business-related resources, individual owners face challenges such as limited marketing budget, lack of expertise, inconvenient payments method, absence of standard contracts and procedures, insurance products, and brand reputation building. Technological advances and facilitated platform. P2P rental markets leverage technological advances to build platforms that reduce transaction costs and provide tools that were previously exclusive to traditional firms. Example, the Uber utilized GPS-enabled smartphones and incorporates best practices from e-commerce websites like eBay. What are the challenges in the P2P rental markets? Finding trading partners, taxonomies, classify goods and recommendation system, compensate for the absence of traditional geographic and time-based coordinating mechanism, and building trust among strangers. Reputation system emerges as a crucial element in facilitating trust among users who may be strangers in P2P transaction. So we finish it. It's the end. It is a lot of time, 242 minutes, but still good. And yeah, so that is all for the Q&A session, and yeah, hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.